I now call on the Minister for Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, the Honourable Rosy Akbar. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I thank the Honourable Member for the question. Mr. Speaker, sir, the National Domestic Violence 24-hour toll-free helpline is a project established by the Fijian government to the Ministry of Women. And of course, together with that, we have a child helpline as well. If you recall, domestic violence not only affects women and families, but the greatest impact is on children as well. So either of the lines could be used by those seeking assistance in terms of children and women. This is a project in partnership with the Fiji Women's Crisis Center, the telecom companies, mainly Telecom Fiji Limited, Vodafone and Digicel. It started in 2017, where we got the initial funding of 200,000 per year for the operation, and this has continued since then. The helpline, Mr. Speaker, provides services for all women and girls, and like I said, children and anyone with concerns about domestic violence in Fiji. This is in line with our motto, making domestic violence everyone's business. You don't have to be a victim, you could be a bystander, and you can report cases on these lines. And to contact the helpline center based in Suva, we have helpline workers who will answer phone calls from women and anybody else who's going to report domestic violence, and this could be victims, survivors, and bystanders. You call the helpline with no cost incurred, access accurate domestic violence information, access essential services, which includes counseling, post-rape care support, safety and security, access to justice, and other services. The helpline, Mr. Speaker, also reaches out to every woman in need of health and protection, whereby their calls are responded to. It is a platform for networking amongst organizations and to provide linkages to support systems and facilitate provision of timely, appropriate, and quality services for survivors. The helpline also ensures that there are counselors and referral made for anyone who seeks the assistance of the government, and we will make sure anyone who is accessing or addressing issues is trained to best practice standards. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, please allow me to inform the House that we are in the process of opening a safe house, and this year's budget has been allocated where we will assist any survivor or a victim who needs overnight shelter or shelter for a couple of days while their cases are addressed to. And this safe house is located in Lautoka. Mr. Speaker, the National Domestic Violence Helpline, that's 1560, until November 2021 has answered 9,452 cumulative genuine calls since the helpline was launched on 8 March 2017. From 2017, the helpline noted a continuous increase in calls received at the helpline, with 57% of calls related to domestic violence. In the 2020-2021 fiscal year, the helpline recorded a total of 3,612 calls, the highest since the establishment of the helpline. Of these calls, 51% were domestic violence related. Again, Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of the first wave of COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown in March 2020, the helpline noted the following trends for April compared to March of the same year. One, there was an increase of 334% calls to the helpline, increase of 190% domestic violence-related calls, both survivors and bystanders, and an increase of 213% calls from survivors. The second wave of COVID-19 and lockdown in April 2021 shows the following trend for May compared to April 2021. There was an increase of 233% of calls. There was an increase in 267% domestic violence-related calls, and an increase of 292 calls from survivors. Mr. Speaker, while some of us may see these increases as shocking, but I would say that these increases in domestic violence calls and cases is a confidence in our system, that women are now more willing to come forward knowing that they will access justice and help. The Fijian government will ensure that we continue to monitor our government initiatives, unafraid of whatever challenges that will inevitably present themselves. We are in this for a long haul, and piece by piece we will pull back the balance that we'll see women and girls and children in Fiji no longer living lives of terror and fear and no longer subject to control and retribution. The government will be there to support the survivors, the vulnerable, the battered women and abused children. We will be there to hold perpetrators to account. We will be there to hold perpetrators to account and speak out against anyone who has any inkling that any violence against women and children is either acceptable or justifiable in any circumstances. No violence at any one time against our women, girls and children is acceptable, and we will hold perpetrators to account. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I thank the Honourable Minister.